Anton Rabie is the director and co-founder of Spin Master and is here in Israel with the Maccabiah Games. How do you go from developing toys to spending all this time here in Israel and saying, I'm taking time off because tennis is important for me? Why?
Well, in the last year, we put in a CEO and created more balance in my life, which is wonderful. And the transitions worked out really well. So we hired a gentleman named Max Randall, who's the CEO of Spin Master. So I'm still involved in the company every day, but different and a little less time. So I'm very grateful for that.
How many times have you been to Israel?
About 4.
And how did you get involved in Maccabiah?
I think Maccabiah is brilliant, the way they bring Jewish kids from around the world to really experience. I mean, as you know well, until you're here, to be here, there's no way you can explain this place without being here. And the connection is so deep, so magical, so special on many fronts. I mean, the connection to one's Jewish roots, the connection to the energy and the people, the history. There's so many incredible stories that you hear of people, how they got here, what circumstances they dealt with. I mean, even when I was with Andy Ram, we were having dinner the other night, he was telling me his story from Uruguay and how his family landed here. So it's, Israel, there is no place like Israel. And I feel, really grateful that I could be here.
You're over the 50 mark. We're talking to business people who are in the sport and in the game. And is it a little different? Is it harder?
I mean, you're playing against people your age group. So, we're all 50. So it's not like I'm playing against a 20-year-old who can last longer on the court. So I spend a lot of time, since my natural coordination is average, I spend a lot of time on the fitness, on the backstage. I really enjoy the whole journey of wellness. I love. So I try my best to, stay in shape and eat well. And I enjoy the wellness lifestyle. And I've been very fortunate to have a great team help me with my wellness, like Dr. Kevin Jardine, who's a close friend and really a mentor for me in this area.
Do you see a correlation, and you're in the game of play and with your toys, so do you see the correlation in terms of sports itself as a correlation to what you do in business? What is it?
The correlation is more on a mindset for me. What's so amazing about playing an individual sport is it really humbles oneself to be incredibly present and to very quickly catch any narratives and release them. And the whole mindset of sports with respect to resilience, feedback, always trying to get feedback on how to do better. I did a really nice talk with Jim Courier. It's on YouTube. There's Jim Courier, Anton Rabie mindset or Mindstones. And we talked about the parallels between, his career and my career. So I think there are a lot of parallels in mindsets when you're trying to, really be in a state of flow mentally. And you use lots of different techniques. You try to create some routine rituals. One uses techniques to try to be present in the moment. There's so many different ways to do that, and you find something that works for yourself. And also things like, trying to, when you have a bad shot, how to have tennis amnesia and how to let go of it and then move on. And when you're in a meeting in business so there are some interesting parallels.
Tell us a little bit about your toy company, and you have very known products world over. How did you develop the concept for some of the really well-known toys?
We have an incredible team, and my partners, Renan and Benny, when we founded the company, they spent so much time on the innovation side. I handled the people side of the business and the sales and the leadership, and they handled the innovation. So I really give them a lot of credit. And, Ben Verdi established incredible relationships with inventors, and we created a very iterative process of working with inventors around the world. We've actually brought inventors to Israel. We did a real bonding. Several years ago, we brought close to 25 top inventors in the industry to Israel. And it was an incredible experience that Benny and Renan did with the inventors.
How do you see Israel's toy industry?
There's always great intellectual property here. You look at Rummy Cub or Rummy Cube, depending on how you pronounce it, that was invented here. There's been other inventions that come out of Israel. So it's a good place for us to meet with inventors, and also the technology, as you know well. Israel is a hub for technology, and it's an interesting place for us to stay connected to.
What are you most proud about Israel? You're here as a player, you've given up time to come.
It's incredible to see the resilience of the people. It's the people. It's all about the people. And my cousin, I was out for dinner the other day with my cousin, and he says, Israelis have a reputation of being aggressive, and one needs to know the circumstances, their history and the culture and survival many, many years ago. But he said the one thing about Israelis, they might come across in first impression as aggressive, but they, if you ever called a friend in Israel and needed help, they'd be there for you in a second. And you could call people on small things or big things, and they'll have your back.
Where is the room for improvement?
I haven't done that much business here. So I wouldn't, we sell our products here. It's not a large market for us, just naturally by the GDP. So I'm not an expert on doing business in Israel, and I couldn't comment on that. It's for us Israel's more an opportunity to find intellectual property than to sell our products. Our products are all in Israel, but again, it's a small market. I would say that, go back to mindset. I think, Israelis, have an opportunity to transition, because we all know how tough the road has been, and the history and the context. And I think that Israeli people, should, like anyone trying to do better and continuous improvement, is start to shift the mindset to, a lot of Israelis, for good reasons, have had to have a lot of skepticism and fear, and I think there's different times to wear different hats, and not always wear the same hat.
What do you take away from these games, the Maccabea games that you just attended? And I know you're heading back home.
Anyone who can have their kids come here is a real privilege, a treat. And it's my daughter here, Lexi, is having the time of her life. To encourage your kids to come here is an absolute must. It's not about the competing, it's about the experience in Israel. I mean, yes, the competition's great, but when my daughter, she didn't even play a high level of tennis, and a year ago she made the team. And I said to Lexi, Lexi, it's not about the tennis, and it's not about it's about being in Israel. It's about meeting other Jewish people from around the world, connecting to Israel, touching it, experiencing it. As you know well, you can't explain to someone how it feels to swim in the ocean who's never been into it until they jump in. And being here in Israel will profoundly change your views for life. And I think a lot of kids who come once, they get the bug, and they start, really giving back, and really stretching their minds in an amazing way. And it's very powerful. It's very powerful in many ways.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anton Rabie, on your way out and taking time actually from the airport to speak with the Media Line.